Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Whangamata Community Board meeting. Apologies, we had one apology from Terry Walker, who was at a meeting in Hamilton today. So can I have a mover and seconder for that, please?
I can second it.
Neil and Dennis, thank you. Public forum. We have Jackie James from the library. Jackie here. Good morning, Jackie. Would you like to come forward?
Will we just sit here if you want it? Good morning.
Morning, Jackie.
If I know, I'm just here supporting the application I made earlier in the month regarding a little bit extra to help us meet our wages bill. In the letter that I wrote into you, I included an impact report. The person that we have employed is definitely making a difference to our numbers. She has increased our numbers up past 800 per family. 800 members doesn't mean that we only have 800 members. It means we have 800 members who have paid, but that could be family members. So it doesn't impact to the full number of people. She's done some events, children in particular, and that has increased our flow of people in remarkably and more family memberships, which is something that we work very hard for. So that shortfall in wages is predominantly per our events managers' income or wages. So that's what we're requesting. Just a little help there. If there are any particular questions from anybody, I'm sure you've all read everything. You should.
Sure we have.
Yeah.
Any questions?
I have no question.
Anything, Dennis?
Has the library had any inquiry or looking at going to be a community library, like a
Attempts funded library.
teams? Yeah, is that
Part of the testing. Yes, it's on our agenda to work towards. It's a lot harder than it seems, and it will be a lot more costly than the current system, but it does guarantee our staffing figures in a better way. However, it would cost TCDC a lot more than the current system. We're quite a cheap little library to run, but a very good little library. So yes, and it is on our plan to investigate further. Software is one of the issues that may make us having to do it because of that.
so at this stage it's just you made inquiries, no further?
We're actively in consultation with Shana at the TCDC library, who is the person who advises us. Yes. Had a meeting just last week. It's not something that's going to happen exceedingly quickly. It will probably be a 2 or 3 year process.
Okay, any other questions? Right, thank you for your time. Appreciate that, and we'll get back to you. Thank you.
Excuse me while I go back to volunteer at the library.
Alan Mitchell, Alan, where is he? Yeah. Okay.
Good morning, this will be a brand new exercise for you. I've got some handouts here for each of you to read. I won't have a chance to absorb it, unfortunately, before I make my call.
We'll have discussions on this later, Alan. We don't make a decision at this point, so we can illustrate that.
You'll notice it's in two parts. First part is what I'm going to say to you today. Second part is more of evidence and more detail. So what I'm going to tell you now is just very briefly what's more detailed in the documents. Good morning, members of the council, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Alan Mitchell. I'm a long-term resident of Onemana. One of the many residents opposed to the basketball court that I'm here to voice my strong opinion to the proposal of the half basketball court on the Onemana beachfront reserve. The Onemana Reserve is a unique and valued part of our community for a peaceful retreat where people can reconnect with nature. The proposed basketball court directly contradicts the purpose of this space and poses multiple concerns, which I will outline today. Argument number one. The Onemana Reserve falls under the coastal living zone, which according to section 45.2 of the coastal living zone is meant to provide a place for relaxation and immerse in nature. Concrete basketball court does not align with this vision. It would disrupt the peaceful nature in a natural setting that residents and visitors cherish. Argument number two, the noise levels. Current zoning limits noise levels in the reserve are 50 decibels, with brief allowances to 70 decibels for recreational activities. However, studies from the University Neighbourhoods Association in Canada show that basketball activities produce noise levels far in excess of these limits. Basketball dribbling alone reaches 85 decibels, while player voices and ball impacts on the hoop exceed 75 decibels. This would create a persistent noise disturbance well beyond what is permitted. Argument number three, the Reserves Act 1977 emphasises public enjoyment while preserving the natural beauty and open spaces of recreational reserves. Whangamata is a coastal village, not an urban area. Yet our reserve already hosts multiple recreational facilities: playground, surf club, a tong, tennis courts, a toilet block, beach volleyball and parking areas. This exceeds what is found in larger urban reserves nearby. Adding yet another facility would undermine the open natural character of this space. Argument number four, reserve management and use. The Whangamatā Reserve Management Plan categorises Onemana Reserve as a neighbourhood reserve, which is meant to support informal family-orientated recreation. There is no mention of adding more infrastructure, especially when a half basketball court already exists just 7 minutes away in Whangamatā. Additionally, the proposed location is the last remaining flat space in this area for family gatherings and community events. Once it is gone, we cannot get it back. Number five, the Onemana Reserve contains known archaeological sites, and under the Heritage New Zealand Tonga Act 2014, any modifications to such areas require special authority. This proposed construction would disturb an area of historical significance and would lead to lengthy compliance processes or even irreversible damage to our heritage. Argument number six, setting a dangerous precedent. The Whangamatā Community Board is responsible not just for Onemana, but for the broader Coromandel district. If this development is approved, it could set a precedent for similar products in other coastal reserves. Coromandel's identity is built on its untouched natural beauty, which supports both tourism and local livelihoods. Allowing this basketball court could open the door to further developments that erode the very essence of our coastal space. Conclusion. In summary, this proposed basketball court is inappropriate for the Whangamata Reserve. It contradicts zoning laws, exceeds permitted noise levels, adds unnecessary infrastructure to an already well-equipped reserve, threatens archaeological sites and risks setting a precedent that could harm other coastal areas. I urge the council to reject this proposal and prioritise preserving the natural character of Onemana for current and future generations. Thank you for your time and I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Alan. Any questions for us?
Yes, I have one. In your introduction, Alan, you referred to, I am one of many residents opposed to the basketball court.
Yes.
Nick McClay said they had, went and asked people, they had 97 replies, 95 were in support and only 2 against. So the many, what are your numbers and where did you get them from?
We have approximately 396 homes in Onemana. So that 95 only represents around 23% of the population of Onemana.
But you're against? How many actual people have come to you and said, I don't like this?
I asked a few, I won't ask people to come to council directly.
So you've got no evidence of people opposed to it?
Yes, I do.
Or what is that?
Well, I know of 6 people who have sent in their own arguments to this.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. So, you know, I mean, they've sent in their own arguments and, you know, the figures speak for themselves.
Thank you.
There was, I have somebody else here is going to actually answer those questions for you.
Okay. Thank you.
You've got a question.
Just a question here on your argument number 2, the noise levels. I think you said in your speech, but it doesn't say in here, it was from a study in Canada, is that?
Canada, yes. Yeah.
So where are the noise levels taken from in the study?
They were taken from the deck of the basketball court.
So how far would the closest house be from the basketball court?
Oh, in that, in Onemana?
Yeah, well, obviously, from the areas where the
30 metres.
do you know how far sound travels per metre before it stops at a decibel, the decibels go down?
No, I don't.
Okay, no, just wondering if the study told you all that sort of stuff.
But what I do know is this, the noise levels are recorded here on the reserve.
Yeah.
And the regulations that I read was talking about reserve noise on the reserve, not how
Which would affect the
30
people.
metres away.
Yeah, so the noise level,
It could affect somebody having a picnic.
yeah, so the noise of 70 decibels is not actually affecting a resident, it would be affecting the people on the reserve, is that
I
correct?
don't know.
I'm just thinking, I mean, I know a large rock concert can have 95 decibels at the sound desk, but every so many metres back it drops off. I don't know the terms, and I'm just wondering whether you would even hear a basketball from a house, you know?
I didn't see that as relevant because the regulation says the noise at the site.
Okay, so your argument is for the noise at the reserve, nothing to do with the
At the
houses?
reserve.
Okay, so you're not saying that the houses will be affected by noise?
No, no.
Okay.
Oh, well, noise travels, doesn't, they're obviously going to be affected.
So the tennis court actually would impact would exceed the noise levels as well?
I haven't done the noise thing on the tennis.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything else? Thank you. Appreciate that. Richard Clarence, good morning, Richard. Good morning. Richard, 5 minutes to address the board, and no decisions are made at this meeting. We'll discuss it afterwards. That's fine. Thank you.
My name's Richard Barrett, been in Onemana for over 25 years. Along with other residents opposed to basketball court being based on the Onemana Reserve. This is the method in which proposal that's been submitted. Or could do great work getting the village residents together for social promotional village events and volunteer work behind doors. My concerns that Orca, Onemana Ratepayers Community Association, do not represent the majority of property owners of Onemana. Prior to Christmas 2024, Whangamatā Community Board asked Orca to survey their Onemana community to establish if there was overall support for the proposal. Orca haven't done a survey, but continue with their submission. It isn't a survey because Orca did not have the information to access the 396 property owners of Onemana. They have email addresses for some 260 people, some of whom are no longer in Onemana. Many emails have more than one name in each. The informational email that our Orca was promotional only. It's not a survey. As it is absent of information regarding the emitting bylaws, noise effects, and any other relevant balanced information. Failing to include this information amounts to misinformation. Refer to my appendix A, which is attached to the back, which was included in the newsletter which was sent out to the 260 people or thereabouts. How could Orca do this submission when they haven't complied with the Whangamatā Community Board request to conduct a proper and balanced survey of all the Onemana residents? Orca doesn't have access to all Onemana residents, so it cannot conduct a proper survey. The only way to get a balanced, reliable survey so that Thames Coromandel District Council do it themselves. Thank you for this opportunity speaking today. I am addressing on behalf of other residents in Onemana that may be opposed and are.
How many are you aware of, Richard?
Well, I only recently, I haven't done any survey. I spoke to the neighbours across the road and haven't seen them for a while, but spoke the other day to them and they haven't heard about it. A lot of people in Onemana don't go to the AGM. At the AGM, it's probably 40, 50. I didn't go this year. We had something else on, fortunately. But they don't go because of arguments that have gone on down there. And normally, there's usually about, say, 40, 45 people there, of which 9 would be committee members. And if you're not on some of those committee members, like Alan was a committee member, but because of his opposition, he's been asked to leave that position. So he steps aside to for harmony. But I think that you've got to listen. The proper information has to go to the property owners, not other people might be on the email list. We don't know how accurate it is there before. And then as Alan said, 95 in favour of 260 that emails went to how many members we don't know. Well, you don't have to be a member, but only Onemana residents. If it's 95 of the 260, it works out about 40 something %.
Okay,
It's not a majority. Thank you.
we'll take into account what you said and what we have there. Dennis?
So just reading this quickly as you put it in front of us here. Your argument seems to be with Orca. What is your actual reason for not wanting the?
It hasn't been a proper survey.
Yeah, so my question is, what's your reason or your supporters for not wanting this basketball court?
Well, there's been a lot of vandalism in Onemana. There's been a lot going on down there.
Mm-hmm.
Could I refer to some notes that was in the.
I'm subject. I'm starting wondering what.
I mean, okay, the toilets at Onemana Surf Club and that were demolished. There's been fires there. There's been a lot of crime going on. I've been down there one time when there's been fires on the beach. Bottles have been buried in sand. There's a lot of there's a lot of stuff out of control.
So do you think
drive
that
out,
the forecourt's going to bring in a different element? Is that what you're saying?
well, could do it. Yes,
Could do. Okay.
yes. Yes, the public, there's no policing. For the police to come out, they're understaffed, for them to get out to Onemana. We can't do citizens arrest or anything like that.
So there's no, is there any way you think of a compromise, perhaps hours of use of it or signage that may help prevent that and, you know?
The signage and that, but Onemana gets distracted.
Okay, so it's more for you about the element that the basketball court brings in. That's what your opposition would be.
And the possibility of the wrong people getting there. The CFO was support, but was the treasurer there for some time, right? And we help get CFO to where it is.
So you're not against the noise? Because I read in the previous one it was noise or?
Well, the noise, it doesn't affect me because our house is far enough away. But it's the element what comes over to Onemana. There's signs there, they're not allowed fires and that. Okay? People go down, there's been a fire in front of Surfboat. There's been damage of sand dunes. People just not appreciating what is here at Onemana. And the other thing is access to Onemana too, which I'd like to mention. It's a little bit different, but you can't, there's pedestrians walking on the road between the fire station and heading out of town. Heading towards Auckland or State Highway 25. Don't walk on the road.
Sorry, but your time's up.
Neil's got a question.
Sorry, I've just got one further question. Do you think the residents of Oratia Place should have a greater say than the general members of the Onemana community because they're the ones immediately beside it?
They might be if they're doing it. I don't know, I won't comment.
Okay.
Okay. I know there are, I know of someone there who is in favour of it.
Well, according to what we've got here, it's everybody except one.
Oh, okay. Well, I know.
No.
Thank you for that, Margaret. One.
Kia ora tātou. Oh, I'm here. Thank you, Chair. Kia ora tātou. It's my huge pleasure to represent Fortysouth Hall United Incorporated. I'd like to introduce you Guru, who I think you may all know, who's a long supporter of our hall, but also someone who's attended many classes at the hall, and I'll talk a bit later about that. And I'd also like to introduce you to Michelle Bracey, who we've co-opted two more committee members onto our committee because things going well and things busy. So kia ora to Michelle. Unfortunately, Jenny's been held up, so she's not here today. So today I just wanted to talk about two things. One was to give you a bit of an update on where things are at, and the second was to talk to our application for discretionary funding. I think, Donna, did we have some photos? She did. Do you mind? So some of you would have noticed that we have finished painting the wall. Looks amazing. We're working really well with the property team, and I can pass around some photos too if you have a look at it. But our work with the property team is going really well. We've just got some plans for some bathrooms, which initially they're going to do some work on the bathrooms for long-term maintenance. The bathrooms are in their original state, and through building our relationship with the property team, we've been able to consult with the community, and we've actually got a much better design for the bathrooms, which we're really excited about. We had a really good consultation in the weekend, and community members came who really knew about the needs of accessibility, people who were nurses at Moana, who cared for people in their homes. So that's going really well. We'd really like to thank the contribution of Blue Sky Home Improvement. We painted the hall for free. So it cost, I think, $800 for TCDC for some sandpaper and some bits and pieces, but we got paint donated, and the community really feels a huge aroha and love and support for the schools. It's just incredible. We feel very proud to see that community in this way. The second thing that I'd like to talk about is our funding application today for discretionary funding. So as you know, there's a money go round with halls. So we've finally, I meant to say sorry first. Thank you to the governance team for slipping in our application. We know that you did everything that you could, and we've got these flowers for, I know we're not supposed to give gifts, but we've got these flowers for Eileen and Donna to say thank you for pulling out the stops that we could speak today. So the reason that we're applying for discretionary funding, and that's for heaters for the hall, is because we get some funding that comes in on a 3-year contract, but that pretty much pays for rates, insurance, and rent that goes back to the council. We're a pretty cheap organisation to run. It's all volunteer-led, and we're providing and hoping to provide amazing activities for the community and outside the community. We're working really well now with the property team. It's been a bit of catch-up because there has not been maintenance done on our hall for many years, so we're really catching up. We've had huge investment from the philanthropic trust, hundreds of thousands, and great work that's been done, but we just need some support with heaters because it's cold. Donna, are we able to show the photo of Rory? On the street.
Triangle.
So this is an example of a young person who called to hire a hall in the community to do some study to make the most of the internet. And I just wonder if you'd like to think about what date you think that he was using this hall so you can see it. Comes up. Well, she's.
Seen it anyway.
You have seen it. And so also Ruhi here has been a member who's been coming to classes in the hall, and because it was so cold and it's freezing, particularly in the mornings, we had to transfer those classes with the generous support of the Onemana Surf Life Saving Club so that we could run classes that we'd organise through the hall there. So welcome to ask her any questions. So we've got a big, there's Rory with his hot water bottle, and we didn't have the bunting up then. Anyone have any idea what date that was that he was studying in the hall? You want to know? Okay, write down what you think it might have been.
No, just tell us.
Tell me, it was the 19th of March. It was a year ago. So this is why we have urgency for the hall. It's freezing, particularly in the mornings. We've got a fabulous celebration coming up with Marty and a 60th birthday, so we're really asking for funding for these heaters. We can't get it from philanthropic trusts. We can't get it through the property team, or we might if you say no, but we'll try really hard and lean on them. They've been amazing. They've agreed to install them. They've agreed to do the electrics, but we know money's tight, but this is going to be a great place where we can have lots of activities. It'll help you with kids, old people, all sorts. It's an amazing facility and we really love your support. So if you've got any questions for me or Ruthie, if you're happy to answer any questions, Michelle, we would love to answer those for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Any questions?
Yeah, okay. How much have you actually raised from your own community?
Well, that's a really good question. Can we come back to you in other presentations? I think, Eileen, can you remember? I think it's about 180,000, something like that. We've raised through applying.
No, I mean, not from other sources, but from your community.
Oh, I think. Gosh, it's really hard to add up because, I mean, what would be the cost of someone painting the wall? What would that be? That's a voluntary contribution. So maybe that's 30K. You've got a committee that work. How many hours would we work? Michelle's just new, but we've got voluntary people who've worked, I don't know, 40, 50 hours a week. You know, we should add that up.
Yeah, no, but apart from voluntary work, so I don't know how many, like if you have 100 people give $90, that's 9,000, right?
You're right.
That's what I'm saying. How much of that kind of actual gift of money?
So what have we got? I mean, there's just so many incredible gifts that we've received. So an example is our Matariki, where we fed, 200 people. That was all came from the community, and we got some koha for that. Sorry, your question again? Could we fundraise?
Yeah, could you fundraise it from within the community?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. You're right. I mean, we could if we had to, because we do need heaters. I mean, this is a community facility that's being run very cheaply for, I mean, these are heaters that will be attached to the hall, which you're looking after. So that's partly why we can't get philanthropic funding. I mean, of course, we could go out to the community and we could say that the council's not able to fund heaters. We could do that if you would like us to, but we'd prefer to say we're working in partnership with the Thames District Council. They're being amazing. And guess what? For our birthday, we're going to have heaters funded. That's what we would prefer.
Just on finance as well. When I remember previous meetings you've come along and said you're trying to get the hall up to a standard to hire out. Is the hireage going well, and how much do you roughly make a year in hireage of the hall for that contribution?
Yeah. So what that's a really good question. So we've been getting the hall up to standard, as you know, we had the floors done, all the painting, and we're doing the bathroom work now. So if you have a chance to have a look at our newsletter, you'll see that we're saying to people, you can hire it, but it's subject to the works being done.
So it's still not been hired out?
No, it's been hired out. So in the weekend, so we had the consultation there. We've had Zumba there. What have you been doing there, Ruby? Yeah, we had a huge number of people the weekend before last, and the whole workshop. So it's available for use, and it's being used. We keep our rates as low as we can. So it's just that we're catching up on the maintenance. And the problem with not having heaters is that our regular classes, if we wanted to do regular classes, won't commit because it's too cold. So we've had yoga, and I said they can't continue. We've had te reo, they can't continue over winter. So the heating is actually the barrier for us to renting out the hall. But yeah, this weekend it was a backup venue for a wedding if it was wet. So people are wanting to use it, but we want it to be able to be used all year. So this is really critical for us, these heaters. And right now, because it's cold in the morning.
Mayor.
Yeah, well, just a quick one, Margaret. How many volunteers work on the whole, not just the committee, but how many volunteers contribute?
Yeah, good question.
Just roughly.
Yeah, so our membership is 199. Yes, just under 200 old members.
Yep.
When we have a working bee, and you'll see photos of working people, I mean, it's amazing how many people turn up. Kind of everyone you know. People come from far and wide. Like for our Matariki event that we did last year, we've had issues as well with how many people were allowed in the hall. So that's been part of our challenge. So we now can have 99 in the hall. But we had over 100 people came, and they fed another 100 for those that couldn't be there. So we have support across the country for this hall. It is well loved and well appreciated. It's punching so far above its weight, and its potential is enormous, and it's the only community centre actually in our area. Sorry, I didn't recognise.
But no, it's all right. So, look, thank you for that answer. I just want to share with you, when we talk to people around the district and other parts of the community, a poultry hall is held up as a fantastic example of community contribution, and the work that you've done there is recognised right across the district. And it's all that aroha, that volunteer contribution. So I just want to congratulate you on that and the work that you've done, and keep it up. It's good stuff, and thank you for the information on that. Appreciate it. Chair.
And thank you, Mr. Scott, because we had heard you say when we submitted that your door is always open, and there have been times where we've wanted to knock on your door, but I can tell you your council and your staff and your team are really supportive, and it's not just that committee, it's the whole panel.
That's good to hear. Thank you. I'll pass that feedback on.
Thank you very much. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Thank you. Moved and seconded. All in favour, say aye. Aye. Against, any? Carried. Thank you. Any late items?
Special.
Conflict?
I can get them to the big house.
Any conflicts of interest? And minutes to confirmation. One for consideration, which is.
I don't know whether you want to bring up just that statement.
Going to go to. Just in relation to the minutes of the meeting, it's just a spelling mistake in relation to page 9. in the second paragraph, it says complaint received a member of the Whangamatā Surf Club. If the complaint was received in relation to a member of the Surf Club.
Thank you, I'll make it on that.
Thank you.
Minutes.
So all in favour for the minutes to be approved, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. I'll move it.
I'll second.
Good to see you. Thank you. Discretionary funding for the Whangamatā Community Library.
Okay, I'll take the report as being read and also the additional request that the board received for pre-reading from the upholstery hall for heaters and the arts collective for storage for a storage container. Just referring to the report, the advantages and disadvantages for those two extra ones is no different from the report, apart from the, of course, the disadvantage where it relates to the library about the wages and honour areas. But all the other advantages and disadvantages and options are the same. Is there any questions?
Can I make a comment? I support the library. It has a widespread community involvement of over 800 families. And it is being run on the cheap compared to some of the other district or council-owned libraries. But having regard to the amount of money we've got, I would suggest perhaps half, 5,000. That's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, yes.
We're just going to go through items one at a time. I'm sort of agree similar thing. We don't have enough money to give out to everyone. I believe we don't want to empty the bank out and have no money either. We've got to be careful of that. So we've got to be pretty careful how we do these three.
There is insufficient discretionary fund to cover all the requirements.
Yes, I understand.
So I think it's fair comment that $5,000 be the most that we can give them in that.
I support that.
You support that? So do I. Okay, Gary, move it and second it.
Yeah, I moved $5,000 be awarded to the Tar Community Library.
Okay. All say aye.
Maybe second, yeah.
Very good. And the Whangamatā Arts Collective are asking for $6,210 for the purchase of a storage container. Are you speaking on this, Graham, or not? It just concerns me that 6,210 is probably the whole cost of the container plus the travel to get it here. And there's no mention as to any assistance that's been given or any collections been made towards it, as opposed to just asking for the total amount from us.
And also other options. I don't know what it would cost to hire one for a year or two. I don't know. But I haven't got as much information as we could have. Perhaps that one could be. Perhaps we could ask for more information on other alternatives or what those things cost. Yeah, sure.
Next time and keep it straight.
Yeah.
You have similar questions. What are they doing at the moment?
And what happens now? Yeah.
And to look in, they probably got the full cost.
I mean, they're roughly running between about 4.5 and 5,000. And then obviously the cost, I think, was $800 to get one. So they're asking for the total.
But it sounds like the way they worded it's a temporary thing until the new building gets, you could, right, hire it could be a, I don't know, maybe we need information, so.
We'll therefore ask for further information in relation to that. And Poetry Hall Committee funding for assistance of the heaters. My thoughts are that we have put a lot of money into this at Poetry Hall, and we are limited, particularly for this financial year. So I think it's asking a lot to put $9,585 into heaters.
I would math on that too, that somewhere in these reports is, in the action schedule, we talked last time about the Whangamatā Memorial Hall. The board put in a request to investigate the issue of heat and aircon, and staff advised the halls around the whole district are being assessed.
Yeah.
And perhaps we need to wait till we've got that whole assessment before we make a decision. So I submit that perhaps a deferral until we get that report.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
Same thing.
I agree. It looks like they're looking at it for all the halls so far, so.
So we'll defer that pending the report in relation to all for the area. Right. So I've had mover and seconder in relation to those except for the last two. So
I'll move.
you'll move.
I'll see.
Okay. All in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. New licence for access to cable at Onemana Drive. Nicole. Good morning, Nicole.
Good morning, Board. I'll take the report as being read, but in summary, Fortysouth are requesting a new licence for access to the communication tower. I'll answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Nicole in relation to this?
Straightforward.
Just the question of the annual rent is, I'm always concerned when there's commercial operations paying next to nothing. Is that council policy still, and I understand that at some stage that's going to get looked at, but are you required to charge 326 per year plus GST?
It is only a licence for access over our property, so it's actually only quite a small, in the scheme of things, it's not really worth a lot of money to council. However, I am currently negotiating with them to increase that rent.
Yeah, so it's pretty much token, isn't it, really?
It is.
And that part of multinational companies that could pay a lot more. And the council's always short of money.
So the motions that are on there, on the table is receives a new licence for access and cable, Fortysouth 436 Onemana Drive, Onemana, report dated the 27th of February 2025. And secondly, recommends to council to approve the entering into a new access cable licence with Fortysouth South for the access to the communication lower via 436 Onemana Drive, Onemana, Whangamatā, being local purpose water supply reserve described. So I don't, or what I ask is there any opposition in relation to that?
Yeah, I agree with the proposal, but subject to the staff being able to increase the rent, if that's not too late.
Nicole, does that sound a reasonable request or not?
That's reasonable. Yes, as I say, we are trying to negotiate that up just based on CPI. However, as I say, it's never going to be a huge amount because it is just, as I say, access over that property. It's just allowing them access rather than, occupancy, I suppose.
But in principle, we agree in relation to it. So, may the mover and seconder please.
I'll second.
All right, all in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
CAPEX work program, 2005 item 3.1. Yeah. Good morning, Luke. How are you?
Good morning.
Thank you
Hopefully
for
we've had a good start for the day. So just report through the chair, providing your standard report for this round of meeting. If I'll take it as read, but noting that we do have a project on a page for you in addition to the standard report, and that Brett is online and available to answer questions in regards to stormwater infrastructure.
We have a discussion on stormwater related.
Yeah, we've got,
Yeah.
we've got managed networking.
Yeah, okay, so we
So
also,
can we just clarify then? I do have some questions around the money spent under the stormwater improvement fund that for this afternoon.
Yeah.
More detailed discussion. Yeah.
so we'll leave those till this afternoon, Luke, and do them from there. Thank you, it was there. Any discussions in relation to the other matters on here?
Yeah, sorry, I do. So earlier in the last couple of weeks, we received an email, I think, from Terry regarding some projects being deferred, and wasn't one of them the wastewater rising main, or have I got misunderstood that?
I understand from what I read that the Hetherington Road one would proceed, but there would be insufficient funds to do the rest. Is that correct, Luke?
So my understanding at this point in time is that nothing has been confirmed as deferred, and the project is proceeding as normal.
So both Lindsay and Marco.
Sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't hear. What?
Lindsay Pump Station and Marco Road.
Through the chair, if I can just make a comment, this project is to do with looking at the supply of sewage coming from Isabel, which currently joins into the line at Casement, which also the Marco pump station joins in, and they both then go to Lindsay Road pump station. We are looking at trying to take the Isabel and redirect it separately to Lindsay, and therefore removing a potential blockage due to flows at Casement. So that project is still proceeding as planned.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes. Okay. Any questions on that? Thank you for clarifying that, Greg. Any more on wastewater?
Right.
The public toilets, obviously, they have been put off until after beach hop, which is the logical thing, but I understand that once that's it's all ready to go, Luke, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. We're still on track to complete before the end of the financial year, 30 June.
Excellent, thank you very much. The dump station's up and running and no problems there?
Yes, we had I think one bit of feedback around smell, but we've monitored that and had no repeat concerns raised. Fully functional and operating.
Thank you. Critical structure renewal. Parks and reserves renewals.
Yeah, no, further down under harbour renewals, I've got a question.
Okay, sure. Parks and reserve renewals. Car park receiving. I see that it's been decided to use the chip seal for that loop. That was decided as being the best alternative as a seal.
Yes, that's my understanding. Is Parks had a look at the options and they've settled on chip seal.
Thank you. Yes. Cemetery, any comments? And harbour renewals, you want to speak?
Yeah, I'm aware of a young boy who was injured at the pontoon. And I don't know the full details of that, but I saw the injuries on photos, and just wondering if the underneath side of that pontoon, whether it gets checked or, I don't know, things that can pose a hazard or what the story is.
So I can answer that. The pontoon, the pontoon?
Yeah.
Not the jump.
Sorry, the raft, the thing that kids swim out to and jump on. Yeah.
That actually isn't a council asset. It's Ocean Sports Club.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
so they own that asset.
Oh, okay.
So we can raise those concerns though with the Ocean Sports Club.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Hall renewals, items identified annually in conjunction with the custodian. They've got the safety barrier, which has been installed. I understand that's completed now. path rehabilitation, replacing section of the Karakia underway for it, and street lighting renewal. I think we spoke about in relation to the street lighting renewal whether it was the most appropriate type of lighting, and I think somebody was going to get back to us on that, Luke, whether
Yes.
there are better alternatives, because it's a very direct lower light which gives a low level of light during the winter months.
Yes, so LEDs, the technology specified through industry standard. LEDs are the way forward for street lighting. It provides the right illumination as per specification, and they're a longer lasting solution that uses less power. So it's actually win-win-win from the perspective of the LED technology.
Okay. I just wonder whether they could look at other types of LED which would give a better circumference of light. That was all. That's my question.
Bigger circumference, so wider spread of light.
Yes, yeah, because it's very direct when it comes down. A lot of those, if you look at Martin Road at night, or that it's very limited in the amount of lighting that it's actually producing with those LED lights.
Okay,
So
I wasn't aware of that, but I'll go away and ask that question of the roading team and see if they've got some options for LED lighting with a wider spread of light.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you very much. Project summary. Any comment in relation to that?
I have just some questions, but I was going to raise this afternoon about the costings, the amount of money that's been spent, what have we achieved?
Brett, will we cover that this afternoon in the discussions?
Through the chair, we can talk about that now. I have Kate Selby-Smith online as well. So we have the Brains Trust, if you want to call us that, available.
Okay, thank you. What question?
Well, my question then, coming back to the action items, to the week's program, we spent around about $520,000 to date out of a budget of 2.5 million. And it seems to me, reading what we've been given, that this is all related to preliminary design and tender processes. And I'm just wondering, it's a lot of money for no physical works, or if I'm
Yeah, I can actually answer that one. You're absolutely right. It is a lot of money, but that's the cost of doing design nowadays. It's not a cheap exercise. And so there's been a lot of effort to ensure that we are putting the right solution in place, and professional services, hourly rates from different types of experts are quite high nowadays.
Through the chair, I would also say that my staff's time is not included in that. They are paid under OPEX and not included in the capital work.
Thank you, Brett.
Well, it's an answer to the question, but it doesn't really solve it doesn't really address much of that. Yeah.
I think one of the things too is we're limited out here is in relation to distance, and it costs so much for travelling in relation to a lot of this stuff. So people charge for travel time, etc., and getting equipment that certainly doesn't cover these sorts of things.
Oh, this is really just design work rather than physical work. So, I understand that people need to get to. I understand it, but
okay, thank you. Anything else? Any other questions for the board? Thank you. Do you want to move and second it? Move and second it, please, in relation to. Thank you. Move and second it. All in favour, say aye. Aye. Against, opinion? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Luke and Brett. Just in relation to what we've got now, the Sorry?
The action sheet.
3.2.
Okay, action schedule. Discussions, and we've got 2 closed, 1 open is the Beverly Terrace speed limit. Was somebody going to talk on that in relation to the legislation?
We were going to have the road project come along and speak with the working, but he has now left and the acting roading manager is away on leave. So Glenn Whitaker will come and speak at the next meeting.
Okay. Are you aware that this changes to the legislation now that it restricts what we can do?
Well, the legislation allows you to do it. I've been in discussions with the NZTA and they've also copied my responses back to TCDC, and I've been in that email loop. And so I look forward to hearing how we're going to progress this and take it forward. You are allowed to do it.
Okay. All right. So all the other matters are closed. Is there any other discussion in relation to the action schedule?
Yeah, what was happening with the signage suggestion by Enterprise Whangamatā?
So we will speak about that this afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah. We've got Patrick coming along this afternoon.
Okay.
Further discussion on that? Sorry. Okay, can I have a mover and seconder, please, for the action schedule?
Second.
All in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Local water done one. Brett, you still, Brett's gone.
No, Brett's there.
You still there, Brett?
Yes,
Yeah.
sorry, I was just talking to someone else. I didn't have my didn't have my ears on.
No, that's fine, good as gold. Just in relation to the local water done well verbal update?
Yep. Are you ready for that?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I will just get Ian Morton to come online. John Grant is already online, I believe.
Yes, I am. Good morning. Morning, Chair and Community Board members.
Morning, John.
Morning, John.
I will just wait for Ian to come online. Hello, Ian. You're on mute. Yep, there you go. We're ready, Ian, to do the local water done well.
Amazing. Has John Grant been informed? Just to John?
Yep, John's online as well.
Perfect. That's great. Kia ora, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. Just give me one moment and I'll just share my screen and I'll just bring up a presentation. So one moment. Kia ora, can everyone see that okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, look, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for your time today. So my name's Ian Morton. I'm the project manager supporting Thames Coromandel with local water done well. I also support multiple other councils on helping support local water done well in the delivery of this. And I've been involved in Three Waters reform since Havelock days, actually. I used to run the freshwater programme at Bay of Plenty Regional Council, and when Havelock happened, I ran all the risk analysis for all the Bay of Plenty water sources to see that they were compliant. So I've been involved in Three Waters for some time. Look, we've got a presentation that we'll just run through very quickly. We'll probably take about 15 to 20 minutes running through this. We're really happy to take comments and questions as we go. Just because I'm sharing my screen, I can't see if people put their hands up. So please just stop me if you do have any questions. So we've got 15 to 20 minutes of a presentation.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. All good to continue, or should I wait for?
Keep going.
Go. Oh, great. So we've got 15, 20 minutes of a presentation. Please, let me know if you want to stop and ask questions as we go, and then there will be some Q&A time at the end for you to ask questions as well. So today we're just going to recap on local water done well, what it is, but also we'll cover off the work that's been done to date with Thames Coromandel. And really we're getting to a point in time where we're starting to get down to some discrete options for how we provide water services for the future. And today, really, we want to get some feedback from you on what those options would be and just your views around this. We've got a paper going to Council on the 8th of April, and we'd love to just kind of gather any kind of feedback from yourself feeding into that decision making for Council on the 8th of April. That decision on the 8th of April is not a final decision. The decision on the 8th of April is purely what do we go out with public consultation around. So it's not a final decision at all. Any questions before I start?
No, all good.
All good? Great. Look, so this is just the Thames Coromandel Three Waters assets. So obviously in the Whangamata area, there's two kind of key sets of schemes, Onemana and Whangamatā. So, and that covers both water, wastewater and stormwater. So these are the two kind of sets of schemes within your area. Just as far as overall assets, so there's around $890 million worth of assets in Three Waters across the whole of the Thames Coromandel area. So it's quite a significant amount of assets within council, and obviously they provide supply to safe potable drinking water for around 20,000 properties across the district, providing wastewater treatment to 23,000 properties across the district, and protecting stormwater for around 25,000 properties. So it's quite substantial as far as what these services provide the community as a whole. So local water done well. So I just want to provide just a little bit of background to this. So obviously there was a Three Waters reform that was previously being led by the previous government. And that was when the new government came into effect, the new coalition government. They repealed that in February 2024. They said that they didn't want to proceed with an amalgamation type approach, which basically regionalised all the water services and forced a lot of councils into that amalgamation type approach. So they repealed that act in February 2024 and said, look, what they want to do is they want councils to make the decisions on the water service delivery going forward. They don't want government to force that upon councils, but they want councils to do that. In September 2024, they provided what is called the Local Government Water Services Act. And what that did is it kind of said, look, you've got to prepare a water service delivery plan. So you've got to tell us, central government, how you will deliver water services for the future. But it provided some clarity around what was expected of councils, and what it sets some really clear benchmarks around what that would look like. And I'll go into that in the next slide around what the key aspects of that Act covered. Further legislation came out in December, and that provided a lot of clarity around what the longer term requirements were for local water done well. It provided clarity around who could help support delivery of water services in the future. It highlighted the economic regulation requirements and also differences to other environmental requirements. And again, I'll cover that in the next slide. And then what is expected is by the 3rd of September 2025 that each council across New Zealand submits a water service delivery plan. And that will then be assessed by the government to confirm if they're comfortable with what's being proposed, and that will then look to be approved by the end of this year. That will then lead into some implementation of whatever is the change that's agreed. So there's been quite a lot happening since February 2024. Happy to stop there if there's any questions on, I'll say, the legislation itself. It is quite detailed legislation, especially this one that came out in December. It's about 305 pages long. There's around 412 clauses to that, as well as different schedules. So it's quite comprehensive, a lot more comprehensive than we have seen in the past.
Any questions at all?
No.
No, that's fine. We thank you very much for going into the depth for us, and we do appreciate that.
You're very welcome. So just as far as just the key aspects of local water done well. So there's 4 key components to what is expected for local water done well. Firstly is that you have to prepare a water service plan. This really documents how councils will deliver water services for the future. And also meet specific legislation around that. So that's what we are focused in on, and this is what has to be delivered by the 3rd of September. They've provided some new structural and financing tools. So currently councils access funding through the Local Government Finance Act, and councils can borrow up to a certain amount. So larger councils can borrow slightly more, smaller councils slightly less. But if I look at Thames Coromandel, you can borrow up to 175% of your revenue that you get in. So that's what you can borrow against at the moment. And that's a whole of council borrowing. Larger councils can borrow more, so they can borrow up to 300%. As part of this new structural and financing tools, what the government said is, if you set up a council-controlled organisation, i.e. a separate organisation that's run with professional board members, you can borrow up to 500%. Now, that doesn't seem like all that much, but it's very significant, especially when you want to, cover and cover the cost of these quite large capital expenditure over a long period of time. Lots of councils with growth really want access to this additional borrowing as well, because it allows them to fund growth up front and then spread that cost over a much longer period of time. For Thames Coromandel, not as important, and we'll go into that a little bit later. But that's what it allows. It allows you to set up CCOs and borrow a significant amount more than what you have been in the past. As far as financial sustainability, the water service plan has to prove 3 key things. One is that the water revenue that comes in meets the costs. So that seems like quite a straightforward thing, but in the past, some councils have potentially rated for water, but then used some of that revenue for other things within council. So going forward, they've required that everything is ring-fenced. So all your water services is ring-fenced, and all the costs that you have to pay for your water services has to be borne exactly by the revenue. So for example, if TCDC decided to go with a standalone business unit, Any cost for staff for doing those 3 water services, any shared services, so HR or IT services would need to come into that and be paid for by that internal business unit that's ring-fenced for water revenue. And also in the past, councils, some councils, and I won't say TCDC because you're in a good position, but some councils have chosen not to fund depreciation and just kind of said, well, our communities can't afford that. We'll move those costs further down the line. You're not allowed to do that anymore. You've got to fully fund depreciation and you've got to fully fund renewals. So there's quite clear requirements around what councils have to fund going forward.
Can I ask a question while you're on that?
Sure.
So you're saying it's got to finance itself. So if we look at the moment, the rates we pay for water usage and that now, does it fund it? Do we fund it all at the moment, or are we making money out of water or losing money?
Yeah, you're in a good position, and I'll go into that in a moment as far as where you are with your water assets. But out of all the councils that I deal with on local water done well, Thames Coromandel is in the strongest position.
That's separate, but you get in the rates where it says how much you pay for water. At the moment, that covers what we do for water.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I will say it's sometimes not as straightforward as that, just because of the way the funding comes in, but fundamentally the answer is yes. The second part, just on financial sustainability, is that the capital investment planned, so the amount of money that you put in for investing in capital as per your LTP, needs to meet regulatory requirements. So again, some councils have made a decision to say, well, we can't afford these improvements to the wastewater treatment plant, so we'll move it into the next, in 10, 15 years. You're no longer allowed to do that. So you've got to have a capital investment plan that 100% meets regulatory requirements. And Thames Coromandel does. You've got an LTP that's been assessed independently by Becca to confirm that you will meet all the financial and regulatory requirements. And you've got to make sure that any financing doesn't constrain investment, i.e. you've got a really clear plan for investment. There is, in addition, some new regulation coming out as well. So that's a new economic regulator. So the Commerce Commission has been asked to carry out some economic regulation. A lot of that is through information disclosure, which is you've got to provide information on your performance and your financial performance, and they then assess that and publish that nationally. If they deem that your communities are not getting what they should be getting, either from a service point of view or that you're charging too much, they can then actually impose some requirements on you. The second aspect of that regulation is Taumata Arawai, who is now called the Water Service Authority. They've got some new wastewater standards in place, and as part of those wastewater standards, they're looking at how to try and minimise the impact to ratepayers as part of that. So there's some new wastewater standards coming in as part of that as well. Quite a lot of changes as a result of this legislation on how you will manage Three Waters and how you will assess Three Waters in the future. Any other questions on that, either water services plan, the new financing tools, financial sustainability, or the new regulation?
Nothing.
No,
Thank you.
So, look, there's been a lot of work being done by TCDC since the legislation came out in September. So we engaged quite early on Martin Jenkins. So Martin Jenkins provide assessment support, detailed financial assessment and modelling support for councils. They work with 12 councils across New Zealand. So they were engaged quite early on to carry out some analysis. So this early piece of work here back in September was looking at the current state of Thames Coromandel. So what is what's in your AMPs just now? How do we actually deliver against that? How are you performing now? So a lot of that information up front was gathered together. What it shows is TCDC are in a really good position as far as the condition of your assets. You're in a great financial position, and actually you've got a really robust LTP 2024 to 2034 that's fully compliant with the regulations. So again, I work for many other councils. No other council are in as good a position as you are. As far as a starting position, and what that means for Thames Coromandel is you've got options. You know, you've got options where you can potentially go on your own. There are downsides to that, but also as far as partnering with other people to look at joint CCO options, lots of people want to partner with Thames Coromandel. So I'll just explain why that is. So you've got quite a low debt capacity at the moment. So you've been managing your assets well within your debt capacity. Because you've got a significant amount of debt capacity available to you, lots of other larger councils want to access that debt capacity and leverage off that debt capacity. This isn't saying they will charge you more. They just want access to that additional debt capacity that you provide to fund their growth. So you're seen as the pretty person at the dance, really, as far as they want you to be involved with them as far as a joint CCO. So you're in a really strong negotiation position. But again, it just provides you with options, really, at this moment in time.
Can I ask a question there? Why would we want to be part of somebody who wants to borrow money from our assets?
Yeah, so by joining, and again, I'll go into this when I talk about the financial modelling. By joining a larger organisation, you have access to, I'll say, a larger amount of investment that can be borrowed to bring forward your investment. So if you want to invest more earlier, you can. Also, it reduces rates in the longer term. And I'll show you the details around this, but that could reduce your rates by $500 to $600 by 2034 for your communities. So that's why you would do it, an affordability issue, but also just that access to financing that you would then get from that. I will cover that off later though, because that's a really important point. So that work that was done pre-December, we got to a point where we then worked through what the potential options were for council and what we should explore in more detail. And then since December, we've been exploring in more detail those options that are available. And again, I'll talk you through those today. After this, as I say, the council decision on the 8th of April as to what do they go out to public consultation with. Public consultations planned between April and May, and then there'll be a workshop explaining what the output of that public consultation is, and then a council meeting to decide by June on what the preferred option is based on the feedback from the public. And then by the 5th of August, we look to approve a water service delivery plan ready to submit that for the 3rd of September. So that's the kind of plan for the rest of the period. And this is where we are now. So we're really seeking feedback from you so that can feed into the decision making on the 8th of April. Just in December, we did discount some options that just weren't really viable for TCDC. So the first one was, internal business unit, absolutely, you can go on your own and you're entirely financially sustainable. So we said, yeah, that makes sense to look at that in much more detail. The second option, which is a single council-owned water organisation, so that's Thames Coromandel setting up its own CCO and being able to access increased borrowing. Because of your financial situation, you don't need to access any increased borrowing. So there was no real benefits to actually setting your own council CCO up. And it also didn't provide any other scale of efficiencies. So that was discounted in December on that basis. A multi-council water-owned organisation, yep, absolutely. That would provide quite a significant change as far as scale, as far as potential efficiencies. So it was agreed that we would explore that in more detail. And again, we've done that. The last two options here are associated with consumer trust models. Again, it's looking at whether you could go with a council on a consumer trust approach or get a fully funded consumer trust approach. These were discounted because you can't access any increased borrowing. You can't borrow at the LGFA rate. So you basically, at this level, when you're looking at consumer trust organisations, they've got to borrow from the banks, and that would be at a much higher rate than what your local government finance allows you to borrow from. So they were discounted on that basis. That actually, again, it doesn't make sense to proceed with those two options. So in December, we got down to two options to investigate further: internal business unit and the multi-council owned water organisation. So this summarises what came out of that decision in December, and basically the instruction to staff to look at these two options. Subsequently to this, we've been working with Bay of Plenty councils. So that included Taronga City Council and Western Bay of Plenty District Council and other councils. So Whakatane District Council was part of that as well. We've also engaged with Waikato Water Done Well. So they're a group of 7 councils across the Waikato. So everyone except Thames Coromandel, Hamilton and Waikato District Council are involved with Waikato Water Done Well. And the last grouping that we were asked to work with was a grouping of Hamilton City Council and Waikato District Council. So we kind of worked with those 3 groups to prepare further detailed analysis for council decision making. And I'll go into that in the next slide. I will say TCDC had 2 strong options on the table. Most communities don't have the luxury of that. Oops, sorry. So the options we looked into at the multi-council water organisation. So as mentioned, this was a Bay of Plenty grouping, Thames Coromandel, TCC, so Thames Coromandel and Taronga City Council, Western Bay and others. The Waikato Water Done Well grouping, and then the Hamilton City and the Waikato District Council. So for each of these multi-council CCOs, you would set up shareholders as part of that, and those shares would be determined based on either the value of your assets or the number of connections, but you would set up shareholding councils, and they would be responsible for setting clear shareholder expectations as part of that, and also appointing a board. So you would issue a statement of expectations. This is what we expect from you, and they would appoint a board. And then it's then up to the board that would be set up to be responsible for the delivery of that water organisation. And they would have to obviously report back to council on a regular basis on how they're delivering against those statement of expectations. So
just a question there. Under that model, TCDC would always be a minority shareholder, wouldn't it?
So if I step through these areas, so within this model where we've looked at with TCC, Taronga would primarily dominate. They would be about 60 to 65% of the overall shareholding. Thames Coromandel would be somewhere between 16 and 18%, depending on how you would apply that. Western Bay of Plenty would be around the same. Within the Waikato Water Done Well Council approach, TCDC would be one of the larger councils, along with Taupo, if they were to join that. So you would probably be one of the larger shareholders within that. Obviously, within the Hamilton one, you'd be pretty much dominated with the Hamilton one, and then you'd be quite similar to the Waikato District Council, maybe a slightly smaller. So it depends on which option, but yeah, I mean, you would be certainly for if you were to join either the Hamilton one or the Taronga one.
Do you have a recommendation or a preference for those?
Well, I'll go through the details on this a little bit more, and then perhaps we can circle back to that on the end, because they've all got pros and cons around them. And again, we'll circle back to that at the end, if that's okay.
Sure.
So TCDC set some clear strategic objectives. And what they said is, like, when you do your analysis against the various options you're looking at, we want you to assess them in a common approach. So we'll set some strategic objectives, and then we'll assess the options against these strategic objectives. So number one is that we are efficient and financially sustainable. We've got to do that to meet the requirements. Second one is that we protect and promote public health and the environment, again, to meet the regulatory requirements. Water services are resilient to natural hazards and climate change, so just taking that into consideration. The next one isn't part of the requirements per se, and this is about how we look at integrated water services in infrastructure planning with the rest of council, and what does it mean for the rest of council. The next part, just the affordability for communities and consumers. So again, this is not part of the requirements of local water done well. It just says you've got to match revenue and costs. It doesn't consider affordability for the communities, but the councillors said, look, that is really important for us, and we want you to include that. Responsibilities to iwi and hapu. And then the last one here is just looking at what does it mean for the rest of council operations, and does it remain viable? So these were the strategic objectives that we've assessed each option against.
I just ask a question there. You got explanations for all, but when you say with the iwi thing, what does that look like? What does that mean as well? Responsibilities.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously any treaty responsibilities that are actually defined within legislation that you already have. So it's kind of meeting that. There's also components as part of the Local Government Act that you've got to meet as far as a minimum requirement for engaging with iwi and hapu. So it's really just kind of making sure that that's being considered and achieved through any kind of, whether it be engagement or any requirements that they have.
That could be the same if you join with other councils. They've got to meet everyone's obligations of each council to do with treaty stuff as well.
No, so I mean, normally the treaty stuff's very specific to a location, rather than, I will say, a generic area. So it's normally quite specific to those locations. But for example, I mean, different councils have different approaches with iwi and hapu. So obviously, when we assess that, you know, because they've got different approaches, there is a complexity there about how do you pull them all together.
So you'd have to all align with. Yeah, that. Okay.
You can agree to do things different, but it's just how do you then deliver against that? So again, there's a complexity to it. It doesn't automatically say, hi, if Tauranga has a different obligation, you've suddenly got to meet that. It's just going, hi, they all have their own obligations, but they might be doing things slightly differently to what you do just now. And how do you then deliver against the different needs? Does that answer the question?
Yep.
So just as far as then how we've assessed, and I won't go through each and every single one, but really against this, we've got both of your options 100% meet the requirements. No one option will be a panacea. No one option is going to deliver and address all concerns. There is trade-offs. But yeah, as I mentioned, both options are strong and meet the legislation requirements. So what we've done is, rather than look at each individual one, we've just said, look, for internal business unit and then a multi-council water organisation, how do they compare against the strategic objectives? So efficiency and sustainability, yeah, moderate alignment to the objectives as far as within council. The only concern is beyond, I'll say the medium term. So beyond a 10-year basis, things start to become more unaffordable for the communities, because you're investing more and more in three water services, and it just becomes more expensive for the communities. Whereas obviously if you look at a multi-council CCO, there's certain efficiencies that are gained through that sort of size and scale, and that's based on international experience.
Can I ask a question there? If you start off as a council alone, and you think after 5 years, oh, this is not working so well, can you then join another one?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I will say it's challenging going the other way though. If you decide to join a CCO and then back out of that then, because by then you've transferred all your assets over, it then becomes quite troublesome. So, we've got Waikato District Council who are in that situation entirely because they are actually stepping out of a relationship with Watercare. And that's why they're looking to partner with another large organisation, which is Hamilton City Council. So it does become quite problematic going the other way. But certainly that option is on the table for TCDC to join at a future point in time. And again, I'll maybe come back to there is pros and cons around doing that and why you would maybe potentially look to do now rather than in the future. So as far as protect and promote public health, yeah, both very good. The only reason for multi-council CCO getting a slightly higher rating there is because obviously they've got a greater ability to invest. So if something comes up on climate change, generally it's quite expensive. And if you were part of a multi-council CCO, you could actually invest a lot more and a lot sooner as well. So you could actually spend to save, so bring forward some investment in some of those climate change areas. As far as integration, so retaining this within council would be a stronger preference, because obviously you've got then really good links to spatial planning, other planning within councils, whereas if it's a multi-council CCO, it just becomes a little bit more tricky to do that. Not saying it can't be done, but obviously there's complexities there. So just this page, so again, affordability, and I'll maybe just talk about that affordability component now. So we've done detailed modelling. It's based on international examples, and we've taken quite a conservative approach to efficiencies as far as this multi-council CCO. But based on the analysis that we've done, currently three waters is around $2,000 per annum for Thames Coromandel residents. By 2034, if you were to go with an internal business unit or division, that would increase to around $2,500 by 2034. So in about 10 years' time. And again, that's not an extremely significant amount, but it is still an increase. If you were to go with a multi-council owned water organisation, that would be about $1,950. So it would be a reduction from what you're paying just now by around $50. So, and again, this is all driven by efficiencies that you would gain from looking at a multi-council CCO. And especially if you look at someone asked if there's a difference between the various options. If you join a metro like Hamilton or Taronga, they can drive a lot more efficiencies just because of the scale that they have. Whereas with the likes of Waikato Water done well, it's a lot smaller councils and probably wouldn't be able to drive as much scale and efficiencies. Both would be compliant though with the Act. So water services are resilient to natural hazards. Again, both would be compliant, but you could invest more through that multi-council CCO. Responsibilities to iwi and hapu. Well, if you were to go alone, you would just use your current relationships and engagement channels. But if you were to go with a multi-council CCO, you would need to set up those new mechanisms and work through with iwi and hapu and understand what that means. And again, there will be, I'll say, each council does it kind of differently. So you just need to work that out. It can be done, but there's a complexity around that. And then as far as remaining council operations, remaining within TCDC, that's by far the lowest impact on operations and staff. If you were to move for a multi-council CCO, so you would be in a much stronger position, and also you would be able to transfer any Three Waters debt over to that multi-council CCO. So what that could do is free up some debt within TCDC to fund other things outside waters as well. So again, there's pros and cons between each option. None deliver 100% of what you want, so there's trade-offs to be done. And the trade-offs generally, if you look at it, is within the internal business unit, you've got much more control within that business unit, and you've got better integration with, I will say, the rest of council and communities in general, whereas a multi-council owned water organisation provides better potential for investment and reduced it reduces the affordability burden on your communities as well. So there's pros and cons between each one. But again, you've got two really good options on the table at the moment. So I might just stop there, and I'll maybe just ask John, do you want to add anything to that?
Look, probably the only thing I'd like to add, Ian, is just some general comments as to where we are in this overall process at the moment, and what the role of the community boards are in not only inputting or questioning the progress and where things are up to, but to understand that there will be a consultation process that will be taking place. And you, as the leaders in your community, will be very much involved and questioned by people in regard to this. And so it's really important to understand the ins and outs of what has taken place so far, and where we as a council have got to, and be able to answer and participate in those discussions that are no doubt going to take place. You know, we have really, I think, as you can see from this clearly, two distinctive offers, and both of them have their positives and some negatives as well. And, you know, there are question marks in regard to exactly, you know, what type of efficiencies can be obtained, and they are people that we have engaged to work on here, who have helped us understand those and helped us with the costings that are involved. And we haven't spoken about the team that have been working on it, but you can obviously see from Ian that he has a great deal of knowledge and is working across councils. We've also been working with a group of consultants, Martin Jenkins, who have extensively helped us in regard to the various stages and discussions and looking at the detail of what we've had to work through. And as well as that, Terry Walker, myself, and Len have been involved in a working group on this topic. So it's something that's going to be with us and is going to be very much part of the next few months as we go through consultation and then into this final decision. And my appeal to you is to really get involved in it, make sure you understand all of the detail of it, and ask questions. If you go away from here and you still have questions, don't stop with these sessions. Just put forward the questions you've got, and you know, we'll make sure that we come back with answers to those, because it's just critically important that community boards and everybody involved in this really understand and participate in the process.
John, can I just ask that this presentation be made available to us, because obviously it's very, very hard to read the small print in that on this presentation on a board like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I raise another question?
Sure.
I've never seen a larger organisation provide efficiencies. I think it's always the opposite. If you take Auckland City Council, far less efficient than when it was North Shore City and before that Takapuna. You know, that's just sort of my experience, that the bigger the organisation, the more chance there is for waste and mismanagement rather than a tighter control. So I'd just kind of question the efficiencies of a multi kind of council CCO. Any comment about that?
Yeah, I mean, so certainly if you look at the likes of Watercare, so Watercare are delivering 2.5% efficiencies at the moment, and have been for some time. So obviously they're a metro, and it's hard to compare against the likes of these types of metros who have got not only the scale but actually the density to drive those efficiencies. We have some really good international examples from the likes of Victoria in Australia that is a lot more representative to, I'll say, the rural areas within New Zealand, and they've been able to achieve quite significant efficiencies when they actually amalgamated. Same with Tasmania. So there is some really good international examples, and we do have presentations. I'd maybe need to check with Martin Jenkins if that can be shared, but we've got really good presentations around those efficiencies. Well, what we've done when we modelled this was we had a look at what was achieved internationally and over what time period, and we've kind of assumed probably about 50% of those savings. So we've certainly not assumed that we will achieve 100% of those savings, just to try and apply a conservative lens to the efficiencies. But even then, they do build up quite considerably over time.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add to that, Ian, that, you know, I think it's a matter of sort of getting your head around the situation of just how big overall this will be over a period of time. And, you know, for example, if you're buying 10 times an item, you can negotiate a better price than you can for a single item. If you have a requirement for a board of people and the board need to be at a certain level, it comes at a cost to be able to have that. And the bigger the spread over a number of people, the less the cost per person becomes. And I understand your concerns. I've shared those same thoughts from almost day one. But the more I look at it, the more I think about it, the more I can see the effectiveness and efficiencies that flow from a well-structured multi-council environment, I guess. But I would also emphasise that the very good work that this council has done over a number of years have put us in this great position we are today, and the uniqueness of the structure that we have with the non-resident ratepayers who have contributed to those costs as well need to be understood and taken into account within that.
Ian, John and Brent, I thank you for that. Can we wind it up now, because we do have another speaker that has been waiting around for some time for this. But I thank you very much for your presentation and look forward to receiving this so that we can look at it in depth.
You're very welcome, and we'll make sure the team has a copy of this and can be shared. I will say at the moment it'd be good if you don't share it outside of the community group and share wider, just while we're working through the council paper for decision making. But we'd love to hear any other feedback that you've got in the presentation. I'm more than happy to share that.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Can I speak? I'm just going to, can I just ask that the council get the IT team to look at that presentation, because he's used a PowerPoint to prepare it. PowerPoint has slideshow option, which the slideshow takes up the whole screen on his computer, and we don't get all the stuff around the side. But thank you for trying to make it work for us. But the software should actually account for it and make it work properly.
Yeah.
The thing on his side, not for you to sort out. But the people who are giving presentations to us should understand the ability of PowerPoint to make a slideshow so it takes up the whole screen.
Thank you for that. Can I have a mover and seconder, please, for that presentation?
Sure. I'll second it.
Thank you. Moved.
I thought it was a good presentation.
All in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Just in relation to the final part now, I received my report, which my report is a bit limited this time because over the last month or so I've been undergoing some surgeries, etc. So it's taken me out of the picture a little bit with that. I think some of the most notable things is the fact that with feedback next week, it looks like that a lot of planning has taken place, and it's going to be a big one, being the 25th beach hop, and the last one that Noddy Watts does. So I understand that it is going to be a big one for them. It is going to be interesting times after that, because whether this discussion, whether in fact Repco will continue as the main sponsors, etc., for it. So I think for this town, that it's brought so much, not only financial gain, but also it's tied a lot of people together, and it's been very successful in that way there. And it doesn't only promote Whangamata, it promotes Onemana, it promotes Waihi, with their different trips and that they do. So it's very, very important for the economy of Coromandel themselves. So that's something that I think we should bear in mind in relation to that. Other than that, I will keep it short because of the fact that I'm sorry that you've been delayed in doing your presentation. So, but that is my report, and I'd move it if seconded, please. Moved and seconded. Any opposition? Thank you, carried.
Dave, can I just say, we're going to be here all weekend, next weekend, really looking forward to it. So
it should be neat, eh? We're coming up for it too.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, no, good, thank you. So I now close our March meeting of Whangamata. Thank you for attending, and thank you for your input, people. And now we move on to the